It's time to talk about your money here on Quad Cities at 11. We've heard the consumer price index over the last few months with inflation at a 40-year high. There's some anxiety when it comes to our purchasing power. Joining us here to help us sort through these ideas is Drue Kampmann, a certified financial planner from Drue Financial Partners in Bettendorf. Good morning.
Good morning, Nina.
So I think the first question we need to kind of address and answer here is, what is the Consumer Price Index and how does that impact everyone?
So the Consumer Price Index measures the cost of goods. And recently, in last week's report, which was a measure in October, the Consumer Price Index actually fell. So it measures inflation, the cost of goods, compared to 8.2% in September. So we went from 8.2% down to 7.7%. So we're hopeful that peak inflation has already occurred, and we'll continue to see the cost of goods and services continue to decline. And obviously, going into a holiday season, this is going to be obviously a time of year where people are spending a lot of money. So we're hopeful that those costs of goods and services during a time period where people are making a lot of purchases, we're going to see those costs continue to decline.
Gotcha. So the Consumer Price Index shows the rate of inflation. What does that mean for Quad Citizens' pocketbooks as we approach the holidays? Could we see this change if like a strike happens? What would the effect be in this money movement of goods? When will we get back to the 2% rate of inflation? I mean, there's a lot of questions here, but with the holidays coming up, people are asking.
Well, the railway, obviously, there's a lot of goods and services moved in the economy across the rail, almost 30%. So that would also put a big strain on an already strained supply chain. So that's obviously going to be an issue if that occurs. But the most important thing to take away from it is you look at your budget and you look at the needs and the wants, and you start looking at how do we cut out the wants and focus on the needs and try to be more thoughtful in your approach and what you're spending money on and how much you're spending. Maybe that's driving, maybe that's gas and fuel, maybe that's eating out. Those are areas that you could maybe try to cut out to get through a period of high inflation where costs of goods and services are high.
Gotcha. And to the Quad citizens that are struggling, what options do they have to combat inflation right now?
Well, again, the budget is the most important aspect of it. You have to engage your finances. And you have to look at where that cost and those spending is. And again, cut out those wants as much as you can and focus on the needs. Try to get through this period, because usually inflation periods last somewhere in that 6 to 12 month time frame. So we're continuing to see cost of goods and services go down in price. So we're hopeful to get through this period, maybe into next year. End of next year, we'll see inflation maybe back at the 2%, but always when they raise interest rates, there's a lag between raising those interest rates and the results. So we're hopeful 23, 24, early 24, we'll see prices fall back into what we've come accustomed to.
And I'm sure you constantly hear the question of when will we get back to that 2% rate of inflation? I mean, is there truly a solid answer there, or is it absolutely kind of just up in the air?
There's so many variables. That's a great question. There's so many variables because you mentioned the railway. Will that come to fruition? Is there going to be a more difficult supply chain? How much is demand going to fall? Because really what the Federal Reserve is doing is raising interest rates to try to slow demand and let those supply chains come back. So usually it's a 6 to 12 month time frame, but there's other variables involved in that can impact it. So there's some unknown to it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Drue Kampmann with Drue Financial Partners in Bettendorf. We really appreciate all your advice, and especially with the holidays coming up. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Have a great Thanksgiving. Take care.